Yo, what's going on, everybody? It is a little bit after 1 p.m. here in Crystal Lake, Illinois. It means it's time for another live stream. Today is Thursday, February 16th, 2023. Man, it is snowing really hard here in Crystal Lake right now, but I got my workout in mostly all the way in before it started snowing really, really hard. So I'm happy for that. But I'm also really excited that we got Phily Bowden here. I think most of you guys know who that is already. She's on YouTube. She's on Instagram. She's been making such super fun content. And now she's diving 2 feet into the pro running world. She left her regular day job behind, moved across the country in England, and now running with a pro team. So we're going to bring her in just a second. But before I do, I want to say hi to everyone listening on the podcast, the audio only version. Hopefully you guys are getting in before the storm hits, or maybe the storm has already hit. Hopefully the roads are clear now so you can get out on your run. And everyone watching this on YouTube, not live, but later, welcome to you guys as well. Hopefully you're done shoveling anything else, snow clearing that you got to do, and you're nice and warm and toasty. Maybe you put on some hand warmers for your run, and then after your shower, you put them in your pocket like I do so you can have nice warm pants. Maybe that's what you're doing, and you're relaxing and watching the YouTube live stream now. Welcome. All right. Without further ado, let's say hi to Phily and bring her in. Phily, welcome.
Hey, what's up? How's it going?
Good. Now, where are you right now?
So I'm at home in Manchester. I'm in my study it's a very unimaginative room. We haven't done anything with this house yet. So my backdrop is a clock that has the wrong time and like half a tripod and like 10% of a cat up here. So it's exciting.
Okay. Well, tell everyone where you've been, because you've been in a couple of places now over the last month. Am I right?
Yeah, I like to move around quite a bit. So I spent the whole of January out in Flagstaff, Arizona, altitude training with my team. And then, God, it feels like it's been like a few days since I got back, but it's been like a couple weeks now. But I had like 2 nights at home when I got back, and then traveled down to Devon, which is sort of the southwest coast of England, to see my grandparents, and then back home for 1 night. And then I flew to Amsterdam to do a race in the Netherlands, and I've been back since Monday evening.
Okay, so world traveling Phily then.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I guess I don't think I've seen a video yet of that race, so I guess I won't ask you to spoil the results yet. So, but
it's in the pipelines. It's in the editing suite.
Okay, cool. Well, hopefully it went well. But that leads me to a question: is like you've been making YouTube videos for a while now. How do you approach like scheduling in terms of like how quickly do you try to get them out? How far ahead are you mapping them? Like, do you have a pace or cadence? Like, can you give us a little bit of insight into that?
Yeah, I guess so. We kind of work backwards from my race schedule, because those are like the no-brainer videos for me, because it's just like it's the most fun thing to film. It's like an effortless sort of format. I just like taking people along to the races. So once I kind of have races on the plan and those scheduled, I kind of work backwards from there. Try and get 1 video out a week as like a rule of thumb, and then an extra one if I can. So I kind of, yeah, we kind of just spitball, myself and Daniel, who he films and edits my videos, my partner, and we kind of just look at what's going on, whether I've done a workout video recently, if there's anything else exciting that we can do differently. Always trying to think of what we can do that's new and different, just because I don't like doing the same thing all the time or filming the same thing. So we're constantly kind of thinking of that. But yeah, I guess we have kind of like 2-ish months like pinned down, and the closer it is, like next week, the week after that, we know like more of the detail of what we want to film, what we're going to do. And then after that, it's like a loose idea of like, I have this race in a few months time, and then there's like 2 weeks where there's a gap, but we'll figure that out. And then we kind of just, we approach that period of time, and sometimes we have those moments where we're like, oh, we have a video to film next week, what shall we film? And then sometimes those end up being the most fun. So
is that when Daniel gets thrown into a race, when there's like a gap in the calendar?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's something that we still need to do, like a proper Daniel does a 5K. He has been training, so maybe I'll spring that on him.
Okay, awesome. Let's take a couple of comments from the chat. Jody Beck says, just want to say thanks to Phily for making great content, and that it's great to see your craziness breaking the mold of other YouTube running YouTubers.
That's so nice. Thank you, Jody.
And Davin Patterson says, "Hey, my two favorite YouTubers." Very cool. And then we have an early one from Ryan. Ryan, I Run on Beer says, "Pumped for this conversation." Very cool.
Love it.
Now, you said before we got on, you said this is your first time doing like a live stream.
Yeah, never done one before.
Awesome. But I mean, you've done podcasts and stuff like that before, though, right? Yeah.
Yeah, very similar. So no one's listening during those conversations, just afterwards. I guess you can edit out the mistakes.
Okay. Yeah. So, it looks like Daniel's in here. He says, "I'm here, so you can't spring that on." So you can't surprise him. So we can't have any secrets then.
He's locked away in the cupboard downstairs.
Here's a very important question, though, from Steve McKellar. Do you call it a PB or do you call it a PR?
You see, I think because I spent a year in the US, I kind of use the terms interchangeably, which is very backboneless of me. Like, if I'm surrounded by more, US-based people, I'll just naturally transition into PR and I'll say workout rather than session. There's all these little different things that we say are different, but yeah, I suppose most of the time I do say PB, and it's kind of fun because it's my initials as well, so I feel like I prefer saying PB most of the time.
There you go. So I feel like you should just take a stand on it and be like, PB, it's my initials.
I'll take a stand.
Yeah.
Right here, right now.
That being said, I go back and forth. So I grew up saying PR, but then like when you watch track meets, they'll say like it's a world's best, it's a region best, it's a season best for people. So I feel like it should just be a personal best, Well,
that's the thing, I suppose, because in the season, if it's a world best, then it's the best that year. But if it's a world record, then it's like it's the best ever. But to have a personal record of the best ever, it's like, okay, well, yeah, that makes sense. But also, it's like the best that you've ever done.
Yeah. So I mean, we
could fight on it for the whole half hour if you want.
All right, we got a couple other comments here. That running guy said, "Awesome editing for Daniel." That running guy also has a YouTube channel, but he's giving Daniel some props. Can you tell us a little bit about like what's the workflow like for you guys? Like just you're just like you have the plan and then Daniel's like, "I got it." Or do you have some input on like, hey, I want like the pacing's off on this part, or what? How does that work for you guys?
So it's kind of evolved over time. I mean, in the earlier days, I feel like maybe we had more of like a discussion about it during the process of like filming, and he's very involved in like the kind of creation part as well as post, like in the edit. So he'll kind of know what transitions he wants to do, and he's kind of like in control and in charge of that. But then that was kind of flipped on its head when I went out to Flagstaff for a month, because I was like, oh my god, I'm the person holding the camera for the entire month. Which I've done those kind of videos as well, where I kind of go off on my own and make it a little bit more personal. But it was quite daunting for me to have like nearly 5 weeks where like if I didn't push that button, like we wouldn't have put anything out. So we kind of had like business calls, if you like, while I was out in Flag, kind of talking about the videos coming up, and I'd just sort of say, what's the kind of rough storyboard? Where do I want to go with it? What do I need to make sure I remember to do? Because he's very good with that sort of thing, and I'm a lot more kind of spontaneous. We'll just throw stuff against the wall, and then we'll come to the edit process and I'll be like, I forgot to say this, or I didn't actually explain the session, or forgot to shout out the sponsor, and then we have to go back. He's very good at remembering that sort of thing. But he's taken a lot more kind of creative freedom and creative control over the videos in the edit process recently, because I mean, he knows what he's doing in that sense. Like, his editing skills are far beyond what mine are, and I can kind of play around with the sound and kind of cut and chop stuff, but he really comes into his own in that part. So I kind of leave him to kind of do a first cut, and then I come in and say, oh, can you just change that bit, and maybe we add some text there, point out the typos, and that's kind of it, really. I mean, I could leave him to it from like the point where we filmed it to he kind of uploads it, and it would be fine. But yeah, it's fun working on it together as well. I think he likes having sat down for like 4 or 5 hours and then bringing me in to like show me a bit that's taken him like half an hour and it's like 3 seconds. And I'm like, that's really cool.
Well, that's nice. A couple of questions. Well, Mr. Germson wants to know if you were still at altitude, but you've been back for now a couple of weeks,
Yeah.
right? But Shannon also has a question, and I was gonna ask you about this too. I saw an Instagram post where like there was a Molly Seidel photo, and then you swipe over a couple, and then I'm like, oh, I know who that is. Philly's in this one too. Shannon wants to know what was running with Molly Seidel like.
Yeah, it was really cool. I mean, there's loads of insanely fast runners out in flag all the time, but I mean, obviously, with what Molly's done of late, it was quite a big deal to just see her out there. And
Mhm.
I mean, having not met her previously, you get the impression that like she's just a very kind of chilled out, funny person, and she really is like that in person as well. So I had a couple runs with her and got chatting, and I mean, we did a session together, but I say we did it together. We kind of started at the same time. It was like our first kind of proper session there, so our coach was very much like holding us back. So did a few strides with her, and then got to watch her like white shorts kind of shuffle off into the distance. But yeah, it's really cool. It's definitely inspiring, like training with like your idols, I suppose.
Mhm. Was that the session where you were wearing a GoPro on your head?
It wasn't, thankfully, but she
Okay.
was at Camp Verde that day. They
Okay.
were doing their own session that day, and I
Yeah.
just was like, "Oh god, this is like low-key embarrassing." Like Bowerman are like running past, and I'm off the
Yeah.
back of the group with this fucking GoPro on my head, and they're
Yeah, yeah.
like, "What is this girl doing?" But all in the name of the content.
Yeah. What does the rest of the team? Because there with your training group. What does the rest of the team think about like the cameras and all this other stuff? Is it a distraction to them? Do they not care, or do they kind of like cautious about it? What do they think?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of a mixed bag. I think,
Mhm.
I mean, I only joined the team about 6 weeks before heading out to flag. So I was very conscious that they're not used to kind of having a camera in their face all the time and like having it at the session. So I made an effort to kind of do as much as I could that kind of they didn't need to like consent to or like be around for. And for that particular session, because they're all like in and around the video, even though it's kind of the camera's literally on my head. I sent them kind of a video beforehand just to be like, it's going up. Are you happy with it? Are you cool with being in this video? And it's just kind of like saying that, really. I think some of them are very up for having a bit of banter and like coming on the videos to kind of talk a little bit. Some of them aren't interested in that side of things, and I have to just like respect that because
Mhm.
it's sort of to each their own on like how much you share, I suppose, especially when you are in that elite space. Some people want to keep things close to their chest. So yeah, but I think they see how much I enjoy it, so I think they can kind of like see the joy in it from that side as well.
That and it reminds me in a way of another, or because you ran at Oregon, and it reminds me of another Oregon athlete who films YouTube videos and has included her teammates in it, Emma Abrahamson. Are you from? You didn't overlap with Emma, did you?
No, I didn't overlap with her. I met her a couple of times while I was out there. She came to a couple of races.
Okay.
But I didn't overlap with Emma though. I get the impression we would have got on really well if we were on
Mhm.
the team together.
Yeah.
But it's funny actually because Daniel, my partner, who now edits videos, is Emma's video editor for YouTube. So it's
Oh,
kind
okay.
of like come full
Oh,
circle.
yeah.
And I'm like sat here like I literally watched her videos before I went to Oregon because I was like, oh, I wonder what it's like being on this team. Oh,
Sure.
cool. All of Emma's videos. And yeah, now he's like sat there editing her videos, which is pretty cool as well.
Interesting. I had no idea. Because Shannon had a follow-up question about what Daniel does for a living outside of filming and editing, but it sounds like at least he's doing a little bit more filming and editing outside of your filming and editing.
Yeah, so by trade, he is an actor and a
Mhm.
voiceover artist. But whilst he's not on like specific jobs for that, I mean, actors have to kind of do a little bit of everything and anything to bring the money in when they're not on like a specific project. So yeah, his main income now is from editing, which is really cool because he literally taught himself what he knows from starting to edit my videos a year ago. And now he has multiple clients and he does a bit of TikTok, bit of Instagram, bit of YouTube. And he loves it, which some people that I speak to that, make YouTube videos as well are like, oh, the editing process is like my least favorite part. And he's kind of the opposite. I've had to push him to make his own content for his like editing business. And I'm like, you should make some reels, like that will bring some clients in. But he just loves sitting there at the laptop and learning new stuff and kind of geeking out on it. So it's pretty cool.
That's really cool. Yeah, I mean, I think that would help because I had another business before the pandemic, and I just started making videos, like how-to videos for a lot of stuff because I did
Mm-hmm.
do some video editing as part of the services that we offered. And so I just kind of like do like simple, like here's how to do this, this, and that, and
Yeah.
content marketing, and that ended up bringing a lot more business than any other thing that I more traditional things that I had tried. It ended up being pretty helpful in that space. I always think that content marketing is a really good way to bring in business.
Yeah, and it's only growing as well. I mean, like just from the kind of the content world, I suppose it's still really like a little baby in a big
Mhm.
fish ocean, if that's a
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah. And this has a comment. He says, "It's the reality of being a pro these days that at a presence online is a very important part of the job." I take it that you think that being a pro, being able to communicate with your audience regularly is important. Do you feel like there's still a resistance to that in a lot of the pro running space?
I think there is. I think both from athletes and brands sometimes. I mean, I just see that like you sharing stuff online through whatever means you want to. Like it doesn't have to be video if you want to blog or, you know, write in another form. Like I think just sharing that with people and kind of creating a community, firstly just from like a fan base point of view, like for the sport, not even for the individual, but like that's only gonna spur that on.
Mhm.
And in a world where like advertising is changing so much, like it used to be you run the fastest times, you know, you get the shoe contract, and then people will see you running those times in the shoes on the TV or when they watch the race. And that's like just not the case anymore. Yes, there's still a little bit of that, but your reach on like any kind of online platform, it, like the opportunity there and the kind of potential is like so much greater that I think a lot of athletes need to definitely kind of wise up to that a little bit more. And it's also, I mean, I'm biased because I love doing it and I would definitely do it if I wasn't doing the pro thing, but I it just makes it so much more fun as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think that general like at least for like American distance running, I feel like the women are doing a really good job of finding ways to communicate with the public and with potential fan base and audience.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that maybe there's something about it more globally too, that like it's that kind of like inviting people in and some of that vulnerability that comes with that seems to come more naturally to a lot of the women athletes. And I find myself like
Mm.
I can name in like any event 3 times as many women as men because I feel like there's like a
Wow.
machismo to like I shouldn't have to talk about myself, you know, like there's a very
Yeah.
like a Galen Rupp or Salazar type of like perspective of like we say nothing and we show
Mm.
up and that's what the only talking we do, you know? And so I feel
Yeah.
like maybe that's part of it. Do you get that sense at all or that there's
I
a sort
do. I
of
mean, I hadn't made the distinction
mm,
between the sort of men and the women in that sense. I mean, I get that impression from sometimes from kind of the best of the best, in
mhm,
that like the times speak for themselves. Like they'll have a couple of 100K followers on whatever platform, Instagram, like if they post like 3 photos a year. But then that's all well and good and that's great. But like imagine what their reach would be if they actually made content and kind of engaged with it. Um, and I think sometimes there is that kind of protectiveness. Like you said, there's a bit of vulnerability about sharing your training, sharing like the real highs and the lows that some athletes just aren't comfortable with, or like they feel like it opens them up to like a risk, like actually in competition, like from showing their competitors what's going on. But I feel like in track and field and in running, like there's not much that you can kind of reveal to your competitors that's going to give them like a huge advantage over to you. Like it's not like it's boxing or something and then they know that like if they hit you in a certain way it's going to be worse. Like it's an individual sport, and like on the day if you're the best, like you're gonna beat that person. I suppose there's a bit of tactics like in some of the middle distances that maybe comes into that a little bit, but yeah, I can see that a little bit.
Um, to follow up on that, Calvin has a comment says, "Love Philly's presence on the platform, and I feel like the space is so heavily male skewed, so it's always great to see better
Yeah.
representation of the running demographic." Can you tell us a little bit about? I mean, I have an idea of what it's like to be a woman on YouTube, but can you give us your perspective of being a woman in the running space on YouTube?
Yeah, I mean, one thing that always surprised me, and didn't surprise those around me, like Daniel wasn't surprised by it, a couple other people that I've spoken to that create content weren't surprised, was that my audience split was very male skewed. And like I just didn't expect that because I was being naive about YouTube as a platform and like who watches YouTube because it's mostly men.
Mhm.
But also in the running space, like participation is heavily male skewed. And I think it started out as something like 75-25, which I was just shocked at and kind of gutted because like I want to bring women into this space and like inspire female runners, especially because I'm biased in that sense. And I think
Mhm.
more women should do it. I think it has like come more towards equalizing, but it's still like nowhere near close. So that was one thing that really surprised me. Um, but I don't really feel like I've experienced a huge amount of like negativity from it, like in terms of like sexism in the comments or anything like that. Sometimes a little bit of ignorance on just not knowing how things are different for female athletes. And I think that's sort of an opportunity for me to kind of like talk on those things a little bit more.
That's cool. You know, I would say though that like, I mean, my numbers are really skewed as well. I think it's like 85 to 90% male to female
Yeah.
on mine at this point. But I also like I have a suspicion and I don't know how to like test for this or figure it out, but like my suspicion is that a lot of women probably aren't like logging into YouTube so they can write comments. They may be like
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like the YouTube algorithm may like kind of figure out what they want to watch, you know, because they have it downloaded on the phone or whatever. But
Hmm.
I get like that's how my wife watches YouTube. When she does watch YouTube, she doesn't watch it a lot, but when she does, she's not logged in.
Yeah.
She's not commenting and stuff. So I feel like I generally assume like in that session of like not logged in users or like like whatever when it doesn't know
Mm.
who's watching, I feel like that's mostly women who are not logged in because they don't care.
Yeah. I
Like,
actually found out a couple of weeks ago that my stepmom is not subscribed to my YouTube channel because I made some sort of joke like,
yeah.
I mentioned something in a race and said like, "Oh, you might have seen it on my YouTube channel because like all of my family watch my videos and they
Mhm.
forget to talk to me because they think they've like caught up with me." And my mum's like, "Oh,
Okay.
I feel like we've spoken, but I've just been watching your videos." Um, and my stepmom had said like, "Oh, I haven't seen that one. Like, I've been super busy." And I was like, "Oh, it's fine. Like, as long as you're subscribed, it's fine." She's like, "Yeah, I'm not." And I was like, "Are you actually joking me?" I was like, "Why?" I'm actually annoyed. And she just said like, "I don't want to give YouTube my information. Like, I don't log in.
Okay.
I don't sign in.
Yeah.
So I watch your videos, but I'm not subscribed." And I was like, "Okay, fine."
Well, you know what? You're getting the views, but, you know, if she commented
Exactly.
too, though, like, YouTube likes the comments, but I think it also know as YouTube knows if they're watching the video all the way through, they know that it was a good video, and so I feel like, you know, you're getting the credit from the
Yeah.
algorithm.
Yeah.
Alright, let's switch gears a little bit. Davin Patterson wants to know, do you have a bucket list of races or simply places you want to run?
Oh, I don't have one like that's written down. I definitely should do that.
Mhm,
But I feel like I just want to use it as like an excuse to travel, like especially as I
mhm,
get older. I look at like the big city marathons, like definitely all of those. And I'd love to go. I mean, I think running does take you to places that you wouldn't normally visit, or it definitely has in my case. Like some of the random ass places I've been to where I'm like, I just would never have come here if there wasn't this race here, which is kind of cool. So yeah, I mean, London is like so close that it's just like, why don't I just do it now? But I have never found the right time to do London, but definitely London Marathon, the big city marathons, you know, across the world. And then like it's kind of predictable, just like the major champs, like, you know, I want to go to
mhm.
the World Championships, Europeans, Commonwealths, and Olympics. Um, but I feel like, yeah, maybe I should look into that a little bit more and look at some like crazy races for when I've like finished running fast, I want to do some like stupid like obstacle races or something,
Are you
like
you into
random
that?
places.
Like
I've
like going through the mud and like climbing up a net and stuff like that?
Yeah, I mean, I've never been like, not that I'm not allowed to, but I feel
Mhm.
like my coach would kill me if I did that because I'm the sort of person that gets injured, like leaving their house to go to the supermarket by just doing something stupid. So I have
Mhm.
to not put myself in situations where that
Yeah.
can happen. So like, I've told myself like I'm not allowed to go skiing. I'm not allowed to do a tough mudder.
Mhm,
You
mhm.
know, probably won't get on a jet ski. But once I'm like retired from professional running, I'm just going to do all of those things. So if there's some like weird and wonderful races that people want to suggest, then I'll 100% be doing that. I'll probably be in my 50s, but screw it.
Awesome. Tender Strasser wants to know, are you planning to run a marathon or half marathon this year?
Yeah, both.
Mhm, mhm.
I am, well, I'm not confirmed into my marathon yet,
Okay.
so I'm kind of like keeping under wraps, but I will be running a marathon in the next kind of couple 2 3 months.
Mhm.
And then I'll do a half before that.
Okay.
Last year round I did a half like at marathon pace
Mhm.
to like just practice fueling and like get used to like running at marathon pace and finish that half and go, oh my god, I've got to do that twice at the same
Yeah,
pace.
yeah.
But this time round, I really want to target like a fast half marathon because my PB's from like a pretty hilly course that I did locally, so I feel like that's kind of overdue. So I'm going to do a half probably next month, I think.
Okay. All right. And then so tactically, like how many weeks do you intend to put like a half marathon before a marathon? Not that I'm trying to figure out what race it is,
Yeah.
but I mean, like,
I feel like you
'cause
need
people have
like,
different ideas like when you can put in an effort like that.
yeah, I mean, I think you need like basically 3 weeks clear for the
Mhm.
marathon with nothing, like no races.
Okay.
So you could get away with it like probably 4 weeks, but I think also like doing it in the middle of a block on tired legs is quite an interesting kind of concept as well. So like 6 7 weeks. I tend to work off like a 14-week marathon block. I know some people go 12, some people go
Mhm.
16. I mean, it's literally because I did 14 last year that I'm like, I will do a 14-week block. Standing strong on that. So yeah, I think 6 weeks is probably a pretty good window.
Okay.
And then that can inform like the training that you've still like
Mm.
got to do. You've still got like 2 3 weeks of like hard sessions, so you can kind of inform your marathon pace based off what you run in the half.
Okay. And then when you do that, like if you're doing like a half marathon at marathon pace, is that like your current then marathon pace or like what your goal marathon pace like is going to be? Does that
It
make
would be
sense?
goal. Yeah,
Okay.
if like if you were to do that, then yeah, I mean that's what I did last year. Went
Mhm.
at goal marathon pace. I didn't end up running that in the marathon, but it was it was confidence building to like run 13.1 and go, I could keep going for probably like 9 more miles, which isn't
Okay.
enough. Like
Yeah.
I remember thinking like I could keep going, but I don't think I could do it all over again. But it's meant to feel all out, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I mean, if you could get to 22, then you're like, all right, well, I still got a few more weeks. I could put in a couple of sessions and get to that
And you
race.
can always get like more than you think you can out of yourself on race day. You know, even if you hit the wall, like you can always get a little bit more out of yourself.
Awesome. Um, Lou Klein wants to know, Philly, how did you enjoy being in America for a month?
It was good, yeah. I mean, I lived in America for like a year and a half when I studied at
Mm.
Oregon, and that's the first time I've been back since then. So it was cool to like be reunited with some of the things that you can't buy in the UK from the supermarket. Like, I mean, I was distraught that there wasn't a Trader Joe's in the vicinity of Flagstaff because
There
I
isn't?
literally had like a list. No, there isn't. There was one like 60 something miles away. I was so sad. I just really wanted to bring home some everything but the bagel seasoning. I ended up
Yeah.
buying it on Amazon for like twice the price and then flying it home with me. So that was cool. And yeah, like I love being in the States. Like, I mean, it obviously depends where you are. Like places are so different depending on where you're on the country. But
Mm.
I really liked Flagstaff. I mean, aside from the snow, it literally got snowed on so much while we're out there,
Yeah.
which is not convenient for running.
Yeah, you guys got dumped on when you were out there. It
Yeah,
was
record snowfall. Yeah, 34 inches. Honestly, we were doing like strength and conditioning in the morning by literally just shoveling the drive. It was
yeah.
awful.
So when you guys were there, I've never been to Flagstaff before, but I know it's kind of this area where that's like just known that people go to for training. And
Yeah.
I know I've seen like, like Suguru Osako goes there, like I've seen a lot of foreign athletes train there. Like Steven Scullion, I think, does he still live there or he used to train there?
Yeah.
But like, how unusual was it for like your team to like roll up to the pizza place with your accents that are from a variety of places in the UK? Like, were people just like not phased, or were like, oh, where are you guys from?
I feel like most people were not phased.
Okay.
I mean, it's a university town, so maybe they get a little bit of that anyway, and they
Mhm.
have kind of people will go out there to prepare for major championships, and there'll be kind of athletes, I guess, from all over the world. But some people really pick up on it. I mean, I have a really like annoying tendency to go into like this hybrid accent that
Okay.
I can't really notice, but like my teammates will be like, "Philly, what are you doing?" like dropping my R's and dropping my T's.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, I mean, I guess like more, there are a couple of guys on the team who have like I'd say stronger accents than I do. Adam's from up in Scotland, and Yip is from the Netherlands. So like people will be kind of more interested in that, I suppose, because it's like more unique than like
Mhm.
just England.
All right. Did you know that the national animal of Scotland is a unicorn?
Is it?
Yeah.
I
I
did
only
not know
learned this
that.
I learned this like a year ago,
I
but
thought it would be like a reindeer or something. A
it's a
reindeer in a kilt.
it's a unicorn. I think I have that right. Where's Innes? Innes is from the north, and so he's the one that told that to
That's
me,
wild.
and he sent me a book one time about unicorns on the tapestries in Scotland, and I was like, this is amazing. That's where I want to go visit, because I had no idea it was like a myth. It's such a mythical place.
Scotland is really cool, actually. I've been there a couple of times.
Very cool. Very important question here. Oh, Innes confirms. Yes, you are correct. Official animal of Scotland.
That's wild. I've learned something new today.
All right. Very, very important question here. Fries or chips? Which one do you call it?
Chips for as
Oh,
in
yeah.
for the potato, like the cooked. If we're
Yeah.
going granular, because
Yeah.
obviously
Yeah.
in the
Fry.
States, chips are what we call crisps.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I can't get my head around that.
I have a hard time with biscuit. Like the fact that
Yeah.
we call them cookies and you guys call them biscuits. And when I think of biscuits, I think savory. So
You think
like,
of like biscuits and gravy biscuits, which
yeah.
blew my mind when I heard about biscuits and gravy. I was like, what like satanic being is putting gravy on cookies, basically?
Yeah. Yeah.
Biscuits for us are like, I guess, like a savory scone. That's what I would compare it to.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, we would use cookies for like the ones that are like a little bit bigger and soft with like chocolate chips. That's a
Okay.
cookie in the
Oh,
UK.
okay.
But biscuits are like the ones that you could like knock someone
Oh,
out with
okay.
and like
All
dip in
right.
your tea.
Okay.
Also,
Okay. So if I said cookies, because I haven't been to London in a long time, and I don't remember,
yeah.
I don't recall if I said cookies at all while I was there. But if I said
It,
cookies, people would know what I'm talking about.
yeah, if you ask for a cookie, then I mean they wouldn't give you like a custard cream biscuit or like a ginger nut, but you might get like a nice soft kind of baked cookie.
Okay. I'm fascinated by the idea that like of you trying to wrap your head around biscuits and gravy. Like, were you at like a Denny's, at like a breakfast place, and you're looking at the menu and you're like, what is this? Sausage gravy?
So weird. I mean, maybe that would have happened if I'd have gone like somewhere in the Midwest.
Okay.
But I,
Yeah.
I, I was actually in Portland,
Okay.
of all places, and I went to a breakfast place, and I just like I try and encourage myself to just try different foods when I'm somewhere different because it's like something you can't get where
Sure.
you are. So I
Yeah.
was like, oh, I always have pancakes or I'll always have eggs, and I I asked my friend, I was like, what on earth is biscuits and gravy? And she's like, oh, I don't really know how to explain it. It's like a southern dish, like
Mhm.
you get it in a bowl. And I think I ordered it actually. I can't say I was all that impressed. Like I didn't really associate with the gravy either. Like it was kind of milky and like
Mhm.
brown, whereas in the
Mhm.
UK it's a lot more like you literally get gravy from the meat and it's like not clear, but like more stock like. Yeah, it was weird.
Yeah.
At least
Yeah.
glad I tried it.
Yeah, it's a different style of gravy. And I suppose even that word can be a little bit confusing.
Yeah.
Um I think that like I can think like other foods like poutine are to me more confusing than the idea of biscuits and gravy. But then when you think about poutine, you're like French fries, cheese curds, and like gravy, like
Hmm.
meat gravy. Then I'm like, oh, okay, that makes a little bit more sense.
Yeah,
Have you
that
ever
makes
have
me
you had
too.
poutine
Cheesecake
before?
and gravy. Have I had what before?
Poutine.
I have no idea what that is.
It's French fries with it's a Canadian dish, which I didn't know if
Okay,
you'd ever get a chance to eat that in Oregon, but, French fries with cheese curds and, like, more of like a gravy like you were talking about, typically, like a brown
interesting.
gravy. So it's on that it's I mean, it seems very, like, M Midwestern to me, but I'm like, it's
Yeah,
since hence the French name, but
something hearty, I guess, keeps you going in the winter.
yeah, we'll keep yeah, it'll stay warm in your belly. But, when you were talking about, like, like, gravy on actual, like, sweet cookies, like, that kinda
Hmm.
biscuit, I feel like I bet you that's a thing. I bet you if you search for that on TikTok, I bet you that's a video that exists, and a Midwestern woman has put that together, I guarantee
Well,
you.
I
In the
mean,
Midwest, we love sweet stuff here.
you can go to Scotland and get a battered Mars bar, like deep fat
Oh,
fried
okay. Yeah,
battered,
yeah.
in,
Yeah, yeah.
like what we put around our fish.
Mhm.
And I mean, I don't know if I would buy one of those. To be honest.
I think it's worth trying once. So, like, in the United States, I don't know if they had state fairs when you were in Oregon, but, like, we have state fairs. Midwest, they're on another level,
Hmm.
and, they'll deep fry anything, and so, like, you can get, like I mean, the latest trend has to be deep fried butter, which I'm not even sure how that works. How does the butter not
Doesn't it
melt?
just
But you
melt?
yeah, I think they freeze it first, so it's kinda like a
Right.
baked Alaska, but just with fat on the inside. So, like, cookies, cookie dough, like, you can get everything.
That's wild. I mean, why?
Oh, awesome. So can we talk a little bit about shoes for a second?
Yeah.
To move on from the food. I know that you've been running in New Balance shoes for a while, and then you signed with the New Balance group, so that transition probably was pretty easy for you.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, I they were kind of shoe dropping me, before
Mhm.
that, because I mean, like with anything, it's quite a personal thing, like, gotta find the right shoes for your feet, so, yeah, I tried them out. I transitioned from what I was wearing before quite nicely into the shoes before I joined the team.
Okay. So can you walk us through, like, your like, on a week, what are the shoes that you're running with right now?
Yeah, so most of my easy runs I do in the 1080s. I think I'm in the V12 at the moment.
Mhm. Mhm.
I've got like normal pairs of them, and then I've got these cool like permafrost ones
Oh,
that have
yeah.
like I don't know, like lock laces rather than normal laces,
Okay.
and you kind of like pull it. And they're like semi-waterproof as well, although they are white, so they are kind of brown because it's very muddy
Okay.
around here. So I pretty much wear those for all my easy runs. I also have a pair of the Fresh Foam Moors,
Okay.
which is pretty much what it says on the tin. It's like it's more cushioning, so it's a bit
Mhm.
like the 1080, but they're like thicker.
Yeah.
And I'll occasionally wear those for like a real easy recovery run.
Okay.
Um, and the only other shoes that I easy run in occasionally are the trail shoes. Like if it's super wet and slippy outside, they're the Hieros, and they're really nice. I just find that like if you're going on like tarmac or concrete too much beforehand, I'm just like with any trail shoes really like they're a lot firmer underneath.
Yeah.
So I only wear those like if I'm up in the hills. And then for workouts, it really varies. Like I don't think I wear like the same shoe for the same workout all the time. I like to sort of mix it up. If I'm in the mood to wear carbon, then I'll either wear the V1s, which you can't buy anymore,
Okay.
but they have like a few pairs in the warehouse, and we love them because they've got like these little grippy bits under them.
I love
Um,
like, the weird nubs that were on there. It
yes,
was so grippy.
yeah, so I'll wear those, like, when it's icy,
Okay.
if we do, like, tempos and the track's kind of, like, iced over or if it's really slippy, and then the V2s, I'm kind of, like, using those mostly for training for, like, tempo
Mhm.
stuff and then saving my V3s more for races just because like, I feel like there is a real difference, so it's nice to
Mhm.
have that on race day.
Yeah.
Um, so I've got, like, the New York colorway of those, the red ones,
Oh,
and
I
then
ran in those this
I
morning.
liked Oh, did you?
Yeah.
How do you like them?
They're good. I mean, I like them more than V2. The V2s, I felt kind of bottomed out a little. They were a little too squishy and not enough
Mhm.
carbon. And I feel
Yeah.
like V3, I don't know if they moved the plate or if it's a different plate or what, but
Yeah.
it feels like there's
There's
a
a
little
huge
bit more
difference, I
spring,
think,
and then there's a
just
little
in
bit
like,
more foam.
yeah, the energy return of those,
Mhm.
like the V3s compared to the V2s is huge. And then I have the Rebels as well, which are
Okay.
this kind of like innocent version without the carbon plate, and
Mhm.
you'd think they'd be super squishy. I mean, I think like it's down to personal preference, but I really like wearing those on the track and
Mhm.
going without carbon kind of as much as I can on the track. I never train in spikes, like I'll only
Okay.
spike up for races, so it's kind of nice to have that benefit when you race and feel like there's like a little bit of extra give. I think that's pretty much it.
Have you run in the Pacer?
No, I literally just got those.
Okay.
Those are the ones like Emily Sisson races in, aren't they?
Well, I think she has a special pair.
Okay.
That's my understanding. I think it's like a Pacer with a little bit more foam in it, which
Mhm.
makes sense because I feel like sometimes the SC Elite feels like I wish there was just a little bit more top end on it if I'm
Yeah.
using it for a faster session. Like, I don't know
Mhm.
that I'd reach for it for, like, VO2 max work, but for, like, threshold and marathon pace, it's lovely, you know?
Yeah.
I could see that, like, why she might want something a little bit more aggressive, but I don't think it's a straight up pacer. I ran in it the other day for the first time, and I was like, "You gotta have strong feet to be able to run in
Yeah.
this," and I don't.
I
I have
guess it's
very
more of
weak
like a
feet.
5K, 10K road shoe, like
Mhm. Yeah.
yeah.
So, like, I was like, "My feet hurt. I need more cushion. I need more softness."
And imagine, like, remember the shoes that we used to run on the roads in, like,
Yeah.
what, 5 or 6 years ago? Like, it blows my mind when I see photos of people wearing these little thin shoes, like, it's
Mhm.
just gone completely the other direction. It's insane.
Yeah, so, I mean, I'm guessing with your time at Oregon, you probably spent a lot of time in the Zoom streaks? Is that what you ran in a lot?
Yeah, I mean, when I was at Oregon, like, I think it was literally when I came home that they all got, like, the next percents,
Oh, okay. Okay.
at the time. So I didn't have we didn't have carbon. All of our
Yeah,
times were
yeah.
pre-carbon. So
Yeah, yeah.
I was wearing like, I'd run my easier under, like, the Vomeros, and then
Mhm.
I mean, I did get told off once for wearing a pair of Adidas flats in on Oregon campus because I got caught by the head coach, and I was like, "I'm really sorry, I just haven't found flats that I like yet."
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that was bad.
Oh my goodness. And how about the SC Trainer? Have you tried that one?
The one that's, like, not road legal, the super
Yeah, the
thick
super
one?
tall one?
I haven't yet. I've got a box of them, but I'm
Okay.
kind of, like, wondering when like, what you go to them for, because 'cause I'm
Yeah.
like, "You can't race in these, so they shouldn't be your favorite shoe, because if they are, then
Yeah,
you wanna put them on a race day and you're not allowed to."
yeah.
So, I guess they could come in handy for, like, really long sort of marathon pace stuff to give your
Mhm.
legs a little bit more back, because 'cause they're
Yeah.
supposed to be, like, super cushioned. But yeah, I haven't tested those out yet.
Okay. Yeah, I sometimes have a hard time figuring out, like, when would I use this? But I find a lot of people that I know that are like, "Look, I'm gonna be out there on the marathon for a long time. I'm not
Yeah.
worried about the fastest shoe. I wanna be fast-ish, but also have some protection on the feet." So I feel like that's where
Yeah.
I see it coming in a lot.
For those, like, really long marathon sessions, and some people go over distance, I guess, like, some people
Oh,
will
yeah.
run further than the marathon, which I guess maybe you want, like, a little bit more
Yeah.
cushion for
Have
that.
have you ever done that?
Absolutely not. It's not necessary, everyone.
Yeah,
You do
yeah.
not need to do that, like,
Uh,
please don't. I mean,
yeah.
unless you're into ultras and all of that, like, good on you, but if you go out for, like, an easy 22, or even a session that's up to, like, 22, 23, it's gonna be the same amount of time on feet as
Y
26.1, so
yeah.
absolutely not. My stepmom did 30 miles on the treadmill once when
Oh, what?
she had, like, a marathon that was cancelled because of COVID,
Okay.
so she's like, "I'm just gonna run it on the treadmill in my garage," and then she was like, "Well, I just thought, why not go to 30?" And I'm like, who thinks that?" Like,
Wow.
she said it as if it was, like, just a normal thing to think, and
Mm.
I don't get it.
She really wanted the round number for Strava. She's like, "26, that's a weird number. We gotta go to
I don't
30."
even think she uploaded to Strava, she's not even got bragging rights, she just, like, literally dropped it in conversation. I was like, "What? You're okay."
Yeah, that's great. That's wild. Like, I didn't even know, like, a treadmill will let you go to 30 miles. Like, I feel like at some point, doesn't it shut off automatically? I don't know.
Yeah, so I think she said she stopped to cook lunch for the kids and
Okay.
then got back on,
Alright,
which
alright.
I even then I'm like, "What
Yeah.
makes you want to, even start running again after.
Yeah.
It must have taken her like 5 hours.
Yeah. All right. I don't want to take up too much of your time today, but let's end this with one more question from Jody this time. Jody wants to know a question: road track or cross country? Which is your favorite way to race?
I feel like I get asked this all the time, and I'd probably give a different answer.
Okay. Okay.
It's definitely not cross country.
Oh, really? That's what I would have picked.
It like flicks back between track and road.
Okay.
I'm probably gonna say road at the moment because that's what I'm into right now.
Mhm.
But I don't think I could be without either.
Okay. Awesome. And I said that was the last question, but I have a follow-up. Now that you're with like the pro group, like how does your race calendar get set? Like, do you like kind of like, well, this is the ones that the team's going to? Do you sit down with the coach and individually talk about it? Like how do like as an amateur, I have no idea how those conversations go for pros. So I'd love to get some like insight into that.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it hasn't really changed because I mean, my coach hasn't changed. She's obviously the head coach of the team, but I've been with her for like a couple of years now. So I just kind of sit down with her and we brainstorm what the big races are and then work backwards from that. And if you're targeting like a major championships and like the big race pre that championships is like a race where you want to get a qualifying time or you want to qualify for that race, then you then kind of book that one in and then work backwards for like say it's a 10K and you need a couple of 5Ks to tune up. You just kind of like look at what there is and she'll bring ideas to that and so will I, and then we see if we can get an entry basically. I don't know if any of the others do it differently, but it's definitely not a like you're doing this and like that's it. And if I said like I didn't want to do something, then that would be cool as well. It's quite nice because it's like it's a conversation rather than like yeah a list of the things you have to do.
All right. Well, very cool. Well, thanks so much for spending time with us this week. I had a really great time talking to you. I know people in the chat were pretty feisty today and they were excited to hear from you as well. So thank you very much. Everyone listening, I'll see you guys tomorrow, same time as today, 1 p.m. Central Time. And tomorrow morning's video is probably going to be, I think it's going to be tomorrow morning on the Brooks Catamount too. So look out for that. And until I see you guys again, be safe out there, everybody. Bye.
Thanks for having me.